What does it mean to live a resilient life? I'm Ryan Manion. I lost my brother to war and my mom to cancer, and I've learned a lot about myself along the way. Now, as the CEO of Travis Manion Foundation, I'm on a journey to explore what it means to be resilient against life's many challenges. Join me and some incredible guests as we ask ourselves the hard questions and define what it means to struggle well. All right, we're back with another episode of the Resilient Life podcast with a repeat offender on the Resilient Life podcast here. We've got Zach Bell and Tyler Vargas-Andrews. I'm so excited to have you on here today.
Very grateful to be here.
Yeah.
Thank you to Zach for connecting us. This is it's pretty awesome. Yeah.
I mean, full disclosure, we've been hanging out for the last 24 hours. We got a nice hard workout in. We went and had a couple old fashions last night. Learned some secrets and, talked about a bunch of stuff, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. I'm not saying anything that'll get me hemmed up in any type of situation.
We just uncovered some truths. I feel like we were uncovering some truths.
Yeah. I mean, aliens are real. I've been saying it for a while, and I think here's a safe place to say it, right? They're real.
This is a safe place?
I think so.
Okay. Well, one of the reasons I was so hell-bent on bugging the crap out of you to get a hold of Tyler is because we're leading up to the 4th anniversary of the withdrawal from Afghanistan. And I think that it makes sense for those that may not know who you are, Tyler, to kind of start there and let's talk about that. August 26th marks the 4th anniversary of the bombing at Abbey Gate. You were a Marine there, stationed at the time. Not to just start big, but let's take us back to that day.
Yeah. So I was 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines out of Camp Pendleton, Camp Horno, and 1st Marine Division. I was forward deployed with my stay team, surveillance and target acquisition team, or scout sniper team, and we were in Kuwait and Saudi Arabia for about the first 5 months of our deployment, and then got attached to Echo Company, which is where I came from as a squad leader, as part of the Special Purpose Marine Air Ground Task Force Crisis Response. We sat for, unfortunately, that whole 5 months, along with the rest of the world, watching the chaos that was leading into Afghanistan. Obviously, years leading up to that point for the withdrawal, but we got tasked with being the non-combatant evacuation operation over there, and we had trained a few times on deployment, doing various mass casualty exercises, as well as on Prince Sultan Air Base, where we were forward up until Afghanistan. We did a few different scenarios, setting up ID lanes, as well as setting up how to properly conduct urban hides out of vehicles and then out of buildings into overwatch positions and whatnot, and observation for the line platoons actually filtering people through and what ended up being Afghanistan. We set up very makeshift lanes, all the airmen, soldiers, and sailors on Prince Sultan Air Base would come through, and we'd run different scenarios and whatnot for a few weeks. But the colonel of our SP MAGTAF, Colonel Lang, was trying to get us over there a lot earlier, many months earlier. And for the sniper teams, we're a battalion-level asset, so we had a lot of direct communication with higher leadership, and he was letting us know, as well as our direct leadership, that they were trying to get us over there early, and above the Marine Corps shut it down. That administration shut it down, wouldn't let us get over there, and so we sat for months just watching Afghanistan fall further and further. On or around the first couple days of August in 2021, we were in Kuwait conducting operations with some Army sniper ranges there, and they're like, all right, you guys are going. And up to that point, it was a lot of for a couple weeks, you're going to go to Afghanistan, you're not going to go. You're going to go, you're not going to go. And so we're just all right, well, we'll see what happens. And 2 weeks before we went is when we were actually told, all right, you guys are going. And they specifically were don't tell anyone else. They had told our team and our direct leadership first. We're like, well, you don't want people to be prepared for this. That doesn't really make sense, but at least mentally. And so that started getting disseminated down. Within the next week and a half, they made us send one of our guys, our assistant team leader, there with the first platoon. They got sent in on like August 15th or so, in and around there. And they got there on the 15th, and that was like, you saw, the first footage of like thousands, tens of thousands of people rushing across the airfield over
Jumping on the planes.
Yeah, jumping on the planes.
Yeah.
82nd Airborne there, the Brits from Para 2, and one platoon plus of Marines and one guy from our team, and that was them for like 36 hours. They cleared the entire airfield and dealt with and watched, like my friends were the ones that sat there and watched those bodies fall off the planes. People that desperate to escape, what is true tyranny and oppression. And, people are always like, why would they do that? Why would they do that? And I mean, it's like, unless you've truly seen it and you've gone to those parts of the world and understand like what true oppression looks like and people that don't have genuine freedom in their nation. And I mean, the people that will literally be killed, stoned, raped, and tortured to death for what they believe in. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's why they were doing that. That's why they were trying to cut their throats on razor wire when we were pulling them out at the gate, and willing to throw their babies over walls to try and get them to Marines, and little, couple-month-old children hitting the ground and dying from being thrown over the wall to try and get to freedom. We got in the next day.
So what day did you get to Afghanistan?
I got there on the 16th, I believe.
So you were only there for 10 days.
Yeah, I was there. I was in Afghanistan for 10 days up until getting blown up.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was. I had this conversation recently with someone, but I was down at the designated marksman schoolhouse and Naval Weapons Station Yorktown, and I got some buddies from my platoon that are like the chief instructors over there. Get the opportunity to go shoot a little bit and talk with the new Marines up and coming out of like security forces or various places all over the Marine Corps. But they're like, one of the kids asked me, and it's weird to say that, like I'm 27 and they're like 19, 20-year-olds, whatever.
Yeah.
But you live a lot of life really fast in the military, as you both know. But they're like, what was your favorite deployment? And I was like, well, I only went on 2 deployments, and like one that was like a combat deployment, if you want to call it that, right? And a deployment to the Middle East to CENTCOM. And I was like, and out of that entire deployment that I didn't even finish, I was in Afghanistan for 10 days, and I was like, honestly, that was hands down one of the best times of my life. Like the way I describe it is like, well, what if you were, my mom's a family law attorney. I'm like, what if you were a lawyer and you practiced law and you passed the bar and you just always were studying, always, taking specialty courses and whatnot, but you never got to actually like prosecute someone, or you ever got to actually like defend or represent someone in a court of law. You got that
big case.
Yeah. Or
no matter how little it lasted, you had that big case.
Yeah, or if you're a professional baseball player and all you did was practice, but you were benched, you never got to play in a game. I was like, if you're a red-blooded American and interested in the military, I mean, you'd be lying if you said that you didn't go into a combat arms job wanting to go put bad dudes in the ground, or more than that is like helping those less fortunate than yourself, and helping those in need. And being able to go to Afghanistan, there was, I would say, probably about almost all of us, we were very excited. It was like, wow, for me and a lot of guys that I came in the Marine Corps with, like, I had been training for 4 years to go into a job that I had never had the opportunity to do. And when we got there, it was a job that hadn't been done the way that we did it since Vietnam. And it was a lot of, even now I get it a lot from vets, but it was like, wow, what you guys did, like, we can't even imagine. And, I spent my entire time in the Marine Corps training for counterinsurgency operations and, dealing with the war in Afghanistan and like what came out of the war in Iraq. And we got there and it was like a humanitarian aid disaster. And, we're expecting like, oh, we're going to go and help people and like pull refugees out and go on patrols and stuff. And it was like, yeah, you guys are dealing with hundreds of thousands of desperate people that are literally they're fighting each other. They're dying from heat exhaustion, fighting to get to the gate days on end without food or water, fighting past the Taliban checkpoints that were north of our gate. And there were multiple gates open around Victor 1-8 and then Victor 2-1, which was us. 1-8 came off of the 24th MU. And so if you see any pictures or videos of like Marines in woodland uniform, that was like primarily all of Victor 1-8, and then the deserts were mostly 2-1 and some various other entities. But they were, we had certain sections of the airfield, they had certain sections of the airfield along with the 82nd, and so we got sent to Abbey Gate on the 19th, in and around the 19th of August, and prior to that, we had just, been conducting observation of various different hide sites and whatnot on Taliban.
When you're there, you're basically... You're up in towers, just kind of surveying, looking for anything suspicious, essentially.
Yeah, essentially. So like a hide is essentially like we had the example of this is that we were on the north side of the airfield where the civilian terminal is. I think that's right. Put up on like a radar satellite dish, like a massive one, right where all the ATC towers are and stuff. So we had a fortified like little section with sandbags that we could fit like 2 dudes in with cover and cami netting, so you're concealed from anything observing you, but you can observe everything else.
Yeah.
And so that's like it's just a concealed position that we can observe or shoot from and whatnot. And so we got pulled off of that, and actually this will kind of come in later, but there was a Bobcat with like forklift on the front of it and a little bed, like a little half truck bed in the back, and our team corpsman was like, hey, we didn't have any vehicles going in there, and so we were all hoofing it, or people were stealing, not stealing, nothing was stolen, but it was just up for grabs there. It was the Wild West, and so there was like those giant luggage conveyor belts that are used to load planes up with.
Yeah.
We were driving those around with 20 Marines on them trying to like get around the airfield.
That was your transport.
Yeah, no, that was our transport.
That's what was there.
Exactly, yeah, or like ATVs, Gators. Sometimes some guys would find some like up armored SUVs and stuff, but we had a forklift, a Bobcat forklift that we found, and my team corpsman and I hot wired and used that for like five or 6 days until I popped the tire. And leaving that, we also opened up a Connex box, like a shipping container, and my team corpsman Jorge was like, "Hey man, there's like a bunch of tools in here," and I was like, "Well, power tools, like hand tools, what?" And he was like, "No, a little bit of both." He's like, "There's some bolt cutters and stuff in here," and I was like, "Oh, like fuck yeah, am I good to cuss on
here?
Okay.
You're fine.
I was like, "Fuck yeah, like we'll take those." And one of them was like a 3 or 4 foot tall. It was like a massive pair of bolt cutters we tossed in the back, and the other one was like a little 2 foot and a half tall pair of bolt cutters that I kept on my ruck from that like moment on, and that'll kind of come into play later in the story. But we got to the gate around the 19th, and we opened the gate. So that gate was closed. There's Abbey Gate, where like our roll 2 was, and then Abbey Gate forward, which is like another, I don't know, half a mile, 3/4 of a mile forward, like into the city, right against the canal, and like where you see the photos of the Marines standing on the wall and stuff. That's Abbey Gate forward. So there's a little 2-story tower there with a pretty heavy-duty gate connected to it, and then like a wall that ran the length of the airport that also had like razor wire wrapped around it and whatnot. And then the canal was, if you're sitting in our tower, you come up through the back of our tower, 2 stories. We stayed in there and we lived in there, conducted 24/7 operations out of there. That first day, it was a platoon essentially at the gate, and some of the British that were there. So what we were trying to do is establish the Baron Hotel was 80 to 100 yards in front of that gate in the city, and it had been cut off because there was hundreds of thousands of people that had now gotten into the canal, come through the Taliban checkpoint, and they had no means to be able to get through. They were just cut off in the city. So we opened it and literally sent like 20 Marines out there in riot gear into a crowd of thousands of people. Like I've got video of this, we got photo of it, but we literally just sent them through thousands of random Afghans, and they pushed out there with riot gear, with riot shields, established that corridor back to the gate, and then we slowly over the next day or two pushed people back, started processing them, and then they started allowing media at the gate and news crews and stuff like that. And so now everything was already being televised. Obviously, the whole world was watching this, and we've got people coming out to the gate, documenting and saying, like, come out of here, on, like, national television, international television. And over the next few days, it was just, the situation just built and built and built. People were getting more desperate. People were well aware that we were getting ready to leave. And the crowd of, tens of thousands of people just slowly, elevated to hundreds of thousands of people. And, it's not just like people that have special immigrant visas or passports and stuff. It's every single person in that area of Afghanistan that wanted to leave and get out. And so the best way I describe it is, like, if I filled up this room with sand, that's how many people there were, just like shoulder to shoulder, holding babies over their heads, screaming and crying. At one point, so in our tower, as we're, half of our team's conducting observation and whatnot, reporting on the, what's going on in the battle space, and the other half of us are down pulling out refugees. And so we'd be pulling out refugees for 8 to 10 hours and then, like, swap, and we'd go up and get on the gun and observation, and then the other half of the team would go down and pull them out. And, as we spoke about yesterday, a lot of it was, we were there for probably like 4 days before we actually ever even got told, like, hey, this is what a special immigrant visa looks like. They were just like, pull people out who have SIVs and passports. And we all know what passports look like, but it was like 4 days at the gate before I remember, like, any of us actually seeing, or understanding what we were looking for.
And there's so many different too, I know I was telling you about my friends Bashamal and Muhammad, like they had whatever process they were in, they didn't have their full SIV, but they were in like a waiting system. So they had paperwork, but it wasn't like, here's your SIV. They actually did not get their SIV until they were here.
That's how most of them were as well.
And so, they're asking me, will this work? And I'm like, I have no idea. Yeah. Like, I have no idea what will work and what won't. And I remember them telling me too, like when they got up there, because they made it past one checkpoint. And a lot of that was with the help of a friend of mine who helped usher them through, knowing that they were connected to me. But then they had to go through biometrics. Yep. And, and I was like, wait, there's a second thing? Like, I didn't know what, because I thought once they made it through the gate, it was like, get on a plane. They were there for like 3 more days, just like sleeping on the ground in the airport until and I think they went through 2 separate rounds of biometrics.
Yeah, there was a lot of, so that was what a lot of it was for us too, is, the line platoons were rotating out every 12 hours or so, and our team stayed there at the gate, but we would pull people through, and a lot of it was like, we would pull people through, we'd pull families through, we'd pull orphans through, we'd pull, every variation of amount of people through and start processing them, search them, see if they have documentation, they go certain places, we connect them to State Department reps, essentially, and they'd come through, and then a lot of them would get sent back, and what that looked like was like, hey, Marine, take this sobbing mother and child and go send them out to the Taliban, and I mean, you're sending them to their death or to be tortured, and I mean, countless times, like our team or other Marines on the ground, like literally walking, sobbing mothers just sitting there like clawing at your uniform, like, kill me, like, please, like, kill me, it would be a mercy. What you killing me is going to be better than what the Taliban is going to do to me and do to my family. And they'd have fortunately we got a lot better as the days went on about, like, you want to, like, have us send these orphans back out this way, like, we're not doing that. And so eventually they created a section that, like, just the orphans went to and whatnot, and it was a lot of that. I mean, it was a lot of, unfortunately, when we were out there and how it felt was, the State Department lacked on a lot of ends. Like, we seemed like they'd work a 9 to 5, and we were working 24/7. So we'd be at night, up all night, trying to prevent people from pushing through. And I mean, the first day alone, we were physically having to fight like thousands of people against 40 Marines, because they were, a lot of military-age males too that are just like throwing fists, like trying to beat us up and get past us. And they're like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, what do you think's going to happen if you get past us, Right. And they're physically fighting us. Like, we got Marines getting ripped and dragged into the crowd of people so people can try and make it through and stuff. And we eventually got it under control. I mean, it was a spike in, I guess, physical action a lot of the time we were there, but it was a lot of like physically trying to, just control an uncontrollable situation. And fortunately, leading up into the 26th, like a few good things that did happen is like after a couple days, I think it was the Army, they brought out like shipping containers and they set up like, I don't know, 3 to 5 shipping containers in a U right between us and the Taliban checkpoint, which was like 155 yards north of our tower. And that, essentially stopped any VBIDs from being able to drive through towards us. So that was a good thing that we did as well. And then started, we had staggered essentially like standoff distance between Marines, dispersion down the canal. But as the days went on, it was like thousands more, tens of thousands more people, hundreds of thousands more people. And so now we've got this canal that we're working in because people are trying to go through the city and avoid the Taliban checkpoint as much as they can and come around through the backside of the canal and like up past where one of the other towers farther in the airport that like our other sniper team's observing from, and coming up the canal a few hundred yards or so. And that canal is like chain link fence connected to our tower, 10 to 12 feet of dirt or so, and then like a little 2 to 3 foot high canal wall, like knee high almost.
Yeah.
And then the canal.
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah, the sewage water, and then the other side of the canal. And so at one point it was like, for the first few days, like, thousands of people on one side, thousands of people on this side, and then people got so desperate, and there were so many people, they lived in the sewage water. I mean, the entire sewage. It's just.
I've seen the pictures of them standing in that canal.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it was literally just packed to the brim.
So you could see people.
Yeah. So people, like, it started with like one little girl, and it was actually one of the, I don't know, a form of comedic relief. Really is, I bet the best way to put it, but. You've got like all these people that are literally just like, blood soaked, mud soaked, like tears, just terrified, every single one of them. And you've got like little girls like running around trying to sell water and stuff. And you've got like guys that don't even care, and they're holding like plates of bread and food over their head, like trying to sell it to people in the crowd. And just like one of the funniest things, or we'd hand out water, and then like this little girl, like one time, she was like trying to sneak in and out, and so we like hand out water to kids, and then they try and sell it to the crowd and stuff like that. Or
oh my gosh!
At one point, we had for most of the time that we were at the gate, like Marines and British up on top of the Connex boxes, and then the Taliban were starting to push up, and they came to us, and it was we had a few guys, like a handful of guys that had been there and done that, throughout the early GWAT and whatnot, and most of us had never been to the Middle East or anything like that. And we've got dudes that came into the bottom of our tower. They used it as kind of like a safe space, and they would go conduct operations for 10, 12 hours, and then they come into the bottom of our tower and just like take off their Kevlar and just sob in their hands because of what was going on and what we were witnessing, like people getting trampled to death and dying. And
did you recognize, like, at the time as like everything was unfolding, like, obviously not knowing what was going to happen on the 26th, but just what you were processing there? Like, were you thinking, whoa, this is going to be a lot to deal with when I get home?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And a lot of what they were portraying it as to us is like, oh, this is going to be the Alamo. Like, you're going to thermite your packs and get on a bird and get the fuck out if you can. And so, I mean, our focus is on pulling people out, but trying to, be proactive, left the bang, like prevent anyone from coming in. We had multiple ID probes.
And let me ask you this, how quickly when you got there, because I want to talk about your congressional testimony, but how quickly when you got there were you like, there's no plan?
Pretty much immediately.
Immediately.
I mean, we got in there and they're, immediately our ROEs got shut down, our rules of engagement, and they're like, don't do anything if you need to. We had this conversation multiple times, our team specifically, before ever even going into country. Obviously, we're like, what are, the conditions for us to be able to engage? And obviously, we're using high-powered optics and cameras and whatnot from our tower. We can see a lot more of the battle space and what's going on. And we got in there and they're like, ROEs are shut down, don't do anything, don't, unless you see someone like actively being killed or harmed, like an American citizen, like don't do anything, don't put your hands on anyone, don't mess with the Taliban, stuff like that. And you've got dudes that watch the Taliban murder their friends, and like platoon sergeants and section leaders and stuff like that. And now they're bringing, the U.S. government is now saying, hey, the Taliban are going to be allowed to come up to your gate and work alongside Marines. Don't do anything. Don't engage with them. Don't do nothing. And they'd come up to our gate, and I've got videos of this too, but them literally beating civilians with sticks, like right next to Marines.
And you just can't do anything.
No, can't do anything. And
meanwhile, like, we're seeing all this, right? And so from like Zach and my perspective, just because we were connected to the military, like, we're seeing the pictures you're taking, we're seeing that. But then we're also sitting at home and watching the daily press conferences from the State Department saying that the operation's super smooth. If you're an American with a passport, it's easy to get out. Just let us know. Call this number. I mean, the dichotomy of different communications that were happening. Like, if you were just Joe Smith sitting on your couch watching Fox News or CNN every day and watching those daily press briefings from the State Department, you were like, well, it looks chaotic, but they're saying the operation's smooth, and everybody that wants to get out and has the right documentation, it's easy, and they're going to make it out, So it was wild.
yeah, I mean, it absolutely was. And that's, it's something Zach and I talk about often, and a lot of other, veterans in the space, and people who are still active duty as well. But like, what happened to us specifically over there, that is something that affected the entire world. It's something that forever changed the veteran community, the military community, Gold Star families. A lot of people are like, oh, well, suicide rates spiked tremendously after that for obvious reasons. And most people are like, whatever the reasons, good or bad, we end up going to war. It's above us, right? It's above anyone who serves in the military for the most part. But people are like, well, what did I go over there and, lose my leg for? What did I go over there and lose my arm for? What did my buddy go over there and lose his life for? Like what was it for?
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like to share and, kind of keeps me above ground, I guess, is that, as fucked up as everything was, as messed up as everything's been over the last 20 years of war, like, what led us to that point and the withdrawal is decades and decades and decades of action, poor action and inaction. And unfortunately, that's not on us. And, you hear that, like, I don't know if it's, the cliche phrase of like, oh, well, you're doing it for your brother or your sister to the left and to the right of you. That could not be more true. The reason that you're doing what you do, the reason that you're operating day to day is to, be there for the man or woman to your left and to your right, and, for the ones that you love back home. And it's, what I hold on to is that, as bad as things happened, as bad as things were during the withdrawal, there were a lot of great things too. I saw a lot of the resiliency of the human spirit and the resiliency of civilians and, Marines alike, and just dealing with an impossible, chaotic situation that, has forever changed the entire world. And, what I'll say is that I know I've helped people, I've helped kids, I've helped men, women, and I've helped give people out of life, and everyone did out there as well, and everyone that helped, everyone that went through the entire 20 years of war, was like, you gave them, whether it was for a minute, an hour, a day, a year, 10 years, whatever it is, like, you gave them a taste at an opportunity of life and freedom that they never would have had. And, whatever reasons we were there for, at the end of the day, at this point, it doesn't matter. We can't change why we were there, that we were there, and that people died and people were hurt. But the hope is that we can learn from it and, carry on that, we gave them an opportunity now. All the people that we helped, all the people throughout the entire 20 years of war, like, a lot of bad shit did happen, but we gave them that look at a life that they never would have experienced otherwise. They, little girls that were able to read books and ride in cars and drive cars and go to school for a little bit. And maybe it's not like that now, but their whole life would have been suffering. They never would have known anything else if it wasn't for the things that we did over there.
You say something?
No, I was just thinking, because it reminded me of it, like when you're talking about like the State Department briefings and stuff. And, I found myself in this very awkward and uncomfortable position where people felt like I should talk about it. And I never did, and I never would have. And I was kind of aghast at the amount of people that did.
Talk about like what was happening over there? Yeah. Okay.
Mainly because I've been on the ground and I understand operational security, and I don't feel it's my job as an Instagram page to basically do war porn as underneath the guise of putting people at risk, right? Like, but the juxtaposition of like what I was seeing on mainstream television and like what was being sent to me daily for the entire time was jarring.
Yeah.
And that like really sticks with me a lot.
I mean, I did publicly call out our Secretary of State, and I called him a liar multiple times on my Instagram page because I was so enraged.
No, that's
to
fine.
Watch what he was saying,
and maybe that's what I should have done too.
Yeah.
Right. So,
no, I mean it just.
But like people were like, you need to like. I'm talking like down to names.
Yeah. So, I'd love to know like what were they looking for you to say?
Everyone wanted me to talk about it. Everyone wanted me to try and leverage what platform that I had for what they perceived to be the greater good. And I was not and am not willing to do something like that without having more knowledge than they had. As well intentioned as it might be, and as people might have really thought they were helping, I don't think everyone who was like
were there a lot of influencers that were saying stuff?
Yes, they were actively violating operational security, and it made me sick at my stomach. And most of them have never done anything like that, so they don't understand like what great risk that they're putting people like Tyler in.
Yeah.
And I do. And so then they're like, you should share this. You should blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not. You also don't even know. By the time it gets to you, like that's the way information works, right? By the time it gets to you in front of you, like how many people has it gone through? What is the real-time stuff that's happening? How do I know that? And like the assumption is that basically is that our enemies wouldn't be monitoring our traffic, which they would be, or like just anything else. Like it's just not something that I'm willing to do.
Yeah.
And
I want to talk about that more.
Yeah.
I want to kind of go down the celebrity vet thing and what they were doing during that time. But I
mean, because I knew Marines that were there, like communicating with me about his unit. I didn't know Tyler yet, but I knew specifically Marines who were like, this is fucked.
I think the unfortunate side of it is like with the media and with social media and the internet and stuff like that. It was not the media, but social media and whatnot. It was a necessary tool for us. I mean, we got out.
I mean, you're on social media. You're tracking what's happening. Like you're seeing what we're seeing.
Yep.
Right.
And we, we were pulling out people by the hundreds, if not thousands, like as a whole, because of people reaching out, whether it was like SF guys, MARSOC dudes, Rangers, like vets that were in, or like, hey, my interpreter, like that I served with back in 2010 was here, like he's going to be here on this day, or he's going to be here with his family on
Everybody
this day.
had an interpreter they wanted to get out.
And a lot of them we did. A lot of them we did. Unfortunately, we left a lot of them behind too, but we got so many people out. Like the last, I won't get too off track because this will lead into the 26th, but we saw a lot of success. That's primarily how we were pulling people out, is like word of mouth and the internet and whatnot. And the other side of it is like the media thing and like operational security and stuff. Like at one point it got broadcast like the day or two, a couple days prior to the 26th, was like, Abbey Gate is the only gate that is open. Go to this gate. It's going to close here in a few days. Like be here.
I knew that sitting in my house.
Exactly.
I was calling Bosch Jamal
put
saying,
on
you
TV.
have to get to Abbey Gate.
Yeah.
Like,
That's why we all know HKI Abbey Gate.
It was put
It's
on,
because
it was
of
put on
that,
TV.
and I was like, I'm not sharing this. And I don't know when I knew about exactly, but it was before it was broadcast. And I was like, well, this won't take long.
Yeah.
And then I'm not pushing people to a place where I can't guarantee their safety. I can't guarantee the Marines and servicemen. I just can't. Like, it's just, the desire to help is there, but without the proper context, I'm just making something worse.
yeah.
And it is irresponsible to do something like like that, in my opinion.
And and then as
I mean, there was 40 guys at a gate with thousands.
Yeah, I mean, tens of thousands.
I was desperate for one family.
No, well, that's, I mean,
I was working with one service member on the ground. We had one coordinated plan of a sign, and it worked.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it worked.
Well, and
but they went 3 times, and I will never forget. You talk about seeing the children, they had been the day prior to them getting through the gate. They got there at dawn, and they were standing there, and Atal was 3 years old at the time, and I remember Bashamal sent me a picture, and he said, "We've been here for 9 hours. I'm scared for Atal," and he sent me a picture of Atal, and I mean, he was white with just sweat dripping down his face, and I said, "Go home." I said, "Go home."
Would you, sorry, I'm gonna cut you off.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, would you be willing to share that story of I think it would be pretty helpful for anyone who sees this, how you shared it with me.
Yeah. I mean, I had Bashamal and Muhammad on the podcast on The Resilient Life. But, that Bashamal had seen a post of mine that I had put up about a year prior. I had put up a post, year prior to the withdrawal in Afghanistan. I had put up a post about my brother was super close with his interpreter in Iraq. His name was Mustafa. My brother wrote a letter for him to get his temporary visa a week before Travis was killed. He had written a letter to him. He ended up coming over here the year after Travis was killed. We spent New Year's with him right in this house. He's living here in the States now.
Hell yeah.
He's doing really well. And we always talked about that brotherhood that existed. And Mustafa, now known as Nick here in the States, would tell us that, Travis was my brother. And I loved learning about that relationship that existed between them. So I put a post up about it, and I was telling you yesterday, Tyler, Bashamal sent me a message. And I think it came from, because I put it up on Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram. I think it was from LinkedIn. And he's like, "I'm Bashamal. I saw your post. I live in Afghanistan. My brother was killed by the Taliban." And he talked about the relationship he had with the Americans when he was over there working with, he was connected to the Army, to soldiers over there through the work he was doing. And I was like, wow, somebody from Afghanistan saw this post. I thought it was really cool. And so over the course of that next year, we just, we had small talk back and forth. And it was when everything started to unravel, I shot him a message and I said, "Are you still in Afghanistan?" And I showed you that message yesterday, and he said, "Yes, I'm still in hell." And so I was like, I got to get him out. And, and so that became my primary focus, because I knew that there were other guys and men and women that were trying to get their interpreters out. And I'm like, I'd never met him, but I felt so invested in getting him and his family out. And so, I connected with some Marines from 1-8, and they connected me with someone who, again, we put a plan together, and we used a sign, and it's funny because I'm thinking back, and I had written all of this down, but somehow there was a British soldier that was involved in it too, because I remember he was the one that messaged me on Signal, and he said, "Tell Bashamal to write Spurgeon on the sign." And I'm like, the heck Spurgeon? Well, I found out it was this guy's last name. He was Spurgeon, And so I found that out after the fact, but I was like, write down Spurgeon on this. And so I had pictures, and he sent me pictures, and he's holding this sign. And but I was telling Tyler yesterday, at one point, Bashamal had gotten really close, and I was like, and he was right where that canal was. And I said, send me a picture of what you are seeing right now. And he was up against the gate, and all I could see were Marines. And I could see that a few of them were officers. And I knew that if you were a young lieutenant in the Marine Corps, you had heard Travis Manion's name. You may have lived in Manion Hall at Quantico. So I said, just start yelling Travis Manion. And so that's what Bashamal started doing. He started saying, "Travis Manion, Travis Manion." And a Marine walked up to him and said, "How do you know that name?" And he said, and I said, once they do it, tell them, Ryan Manion, and I ended up on the phone with this Marine, and I was like, this is my guy.
Yeah.
And so that's how they got through. And so I was like, I'm like, thanks, Trav. Like, did me a solid. Like, you helped out in that. But
That's the best case scenario of that. Like, I didn't have any type of like day in, day out connections to that. It was just, for me, my position was like strangers sending me stuff and just, I didn't.
Of course. And then I showed Tyler yesterday. Once they got through, my inbox was just messages and messages from Afghans. Like, can you help me? Because I was documenting the whole process with them. Of what was now not in real time of like, I wasn't like, they're at the gate today, they're waiting. But once they got through, I was like, because I got the picture of them and they were on the plane and it was, thank you, Miss Ryan. And the text I'll never forget was when that Air Force PJ, he just sent me the text and he's like, I have them. And I was like, oh my God, they're in. But again, it was 3 days later till they got on the plane. And so when I put that out there, then my Instagram messages were just, and I mean, if you're a public figure and you're a veteran, you were getting flooded with messages from Afghans on help me,
Yeah, and I didn't have any answers, and I wasn't sure how to be involved without hurting others or putting other people at risk. And that was just my kind of I didn't have direct points of contact. Everything else, honestly, all my interpreters and stuff at that time had moved on or moved out. I mean, because by this time my last deployment was in 2010, so 21. Is that what it was? 21. 21. So that's a decade later.
Yeah.
So
But that desperation you felt, I remember every one of those messages. I
wanted to help.
It stung, and I can't even imagine. These are messages from people you've never met. These were people that were standing where I am to you, saying, "Save my life." I couldn't imagine that.
I didn't have any answers. I didn't have any answers that I thought would be helpful or not continue to put others at risk. And so then it just felt like that's. I mean, I just make memes. Realistically, that's what I do. I just kind of do social commentary, and try to put a spin on it, on making mental health cool, but be you don't really anticipate being in a shift of that.
Yeah.
And that's like you said, it's a humanitarian aid crisis. It's a worst case scenario. And I didn't want to be someone who I thought or perceived to be making things harder on the people that were already having a hard time.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, and to that too, the humanitarian aid piece of it is, we sat there along with everyone else watching the prior administration say, there will never be Chinooks carrying politicians and ambassadors off of an embassy ever again. And then one day later, we watch it happen over there, and no way. And
no way.
The media piece, it's broadcast worldwide and saying Abbey Gate's the only gate that opened that. The amount of people that increased over a 2 to 3 day period up to the 26th was 100,000. I mean, it was unbelievable. And I've got some of those videos, and I'll share them with you. But panning from our tower, from the front of our tower where the Taliban checkpoint is, all the way around. I mean, it's literally 3/4 of a mile long as far as you can see. Just tens of thousands of people just filled up in the canal all over, and getting into the last kind of few hours and days leading up to the 26th, we had multiple ID probes, backpack, same make model backpacks and duffel bags dropped around, and we call EOD up and whatnot, and they'd clear it out. And then coming into the night of the 25th, morning of the 26th, around 1 a.m. or so, 1 to 2 a.m., we had been given intel brief that my team and our sniper platoon, the guys that were out there, from our intelligence assets, saying there's a suicide bomber on his way to the gate. This is who he is. This is who he's traveling with. This is what he's wearing, and be on the lookout. He's going to be here tomorrow.
Okay, so let me stop you there. You're told there's a suicide bomber that's on his way.
Mm-hmm.
What are you told to do if you spot that suicide bomber?
We asked, they said, you pass it up. That was the first question we asked, is like, we see who we believe to be the bomber, and, we
What do we
ID
do?
this person. We positive ID this person. Are we okay to engage? And they said, nope, you need to pass it up to higher and let them know what's going on. Someone needs to be made aware of this that's above you before you're going to be given the authority to engage. And, all of the years since, a lot of what the government has said to us is that this didn't happen. Everyone who says that things didn't happen the way they did over there wasn't there. That's
so interesting.
Yeah. And, they even down to well, what happened, sir, to the hundreds of photos that we took of the Taliban beating civilians, of dead bodies of civilians lined up to be executed at the Taliban checkpoint, of Americans that were beaten, killed. And they're like, they don't exist anywhere in any DoD or foreign intelligence assets database. Those photos and videos don't exist anywhere. We don't know what happened to them. I'm like, all right, that's really convenient for everyone but us. But we went back out to the gate that, very, very early morning hours of the 26th.
Knowing there's a suicide bomber.
Yeah, and we still have, half of our team there at the gate.
Yeah.
And I was coming back with my team leader and one of the other guys. And so we go back to the gate. Funny moment is that the intel guy that, gave us that actually handed us a couple of cans of Red Bull. And we're like, holy shit. That was one of the, fun moments, but we crushed cans of Red Bull at 3 a.m. and we're like, fuck yeah.
Let's go.
We're good to go. And went back out to the gate. And then we get out there. Most of what I like to do while we were at the gate is I loved staying up through the night, because I'm like, all right, if something's going to happen, it's going to happen at night.
Yeah.
This is when we're the most vulnerable. So I stayed up, got in an hour or two of rest. And
This is overnight on the 25th.
yeah, this is the morning, technically the morning of the 26th.
Yeah.
We're still up, but again, another morning, waking up to just screams and people crying and yelling for help, and at the base of our tower, that's where everyone was converging. And we immediately, when we got to the tower and everything, we're disseminating to everyone hey, be on the lookout for this individual traveling with this individual, and this is the description, and they're going to be here today. This is what we're told. And so we're they're go about conducting operations as normal. And 10 to I don't know, 11 or 12 in the morning, we spot the individual that matched the description of the bomber and who he was traveling with and what he was wearing. And I myself called over on the net, this is what we see, these are the photos that we have, and we passed it to 4 other entities, psychological operations, EOD, counterintelligence, had them come up and look at the photos, look at who we were looking at. And these individuals are hundreds of yards back in the crowd, but we have optics that are very easily able to identify them. And these 4 other sets of eyes and 4 various entities were all yep, that's who we believe him to be, that's who he is. And simultaneously we're passing this up to our higher leadership. And they're do we have engagement authority? And they're nope, don't fucking do anything, don't do anything. And again, this is one of those things that everyone, especially all the years later, we had a supplementary review done of the evacuation in Afghanistan 2 years after, and it was even then still a year or 3 years after almost, but then a year after I testified in front of Congress. And everyone's oh, well, this didn't happen. The picture that we have of this, who you guys say the bomber was, that's not who he is. And the photo that they showed us is a cell phone picture of a camera that we had. It was a cell phone picture that one of our guys took of a camera of multiple individuals like that, whether it was ISIS or Taliban sending people into the crowd and
Sure.
whatnot. And we're how do you have, you have our cell phone picture of our camera, but you don't have any of the thousands of pictures that we took of what actually was happening and in the battle space. And again, you know, I'm on the net, like, get the fucking battalion commander up here, like, right now. Like, we're gonna shoot this guy. Like, someone's going to die. Like, people are going to die if you know, this is.
You said that.
With. Yeah, like, people are going to die, and you know, eventually, battalion commander comes up, and we sat there, me and my team leader, and I want to say my first sergeant, and, you know, we're like, sir, this is the situation. This is who he is. We have these, you know, various other entities that are of significant importance that agree that this is who the bomber is and who he's traveling with. And, like, I have these signal messages, and I have shit stored on USBs that have never touched a computer and stuff of this, like me sending those messages to, like, counter intel and to PSYOPs and EOD and stuff, like, hey, like, we have him, like, he's up here, like, can you come? And they immediately came and verified that as well. And then battalion commander comes up, we request engagement authority, you know, like, what can we do? And he's like, I don't know. And we're like, what the fuck do you mean you don't know, sir? And he's like, I don't know, but I'll go find out. And so we sit there, you know, with our thumbs up our asses. These individuals who we PID, you know, they disappear very easily into the crowd of, you know, fucking hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah.
And we're searching for them all throughout the day. We had called, like, a halt in operations down there. Like, even I think that same day we had an IED probe prior to that too, and it was like everyone's down on a knee, everyone's holding. We're like, there's a fucking, and this is like hours before the bomb. Like, everyone's down on a knee. We're not searching people. We're not pulling people through because we're like, there's a fucking, like, there's an ID down there, and there's also a suicide bomber down there. And
so you guys were on such high alert that day. Like, you knew something was going to happen,
absolutely.
essentially.
Yeah, and you know, and then eventually, you know, hours goes by, nothing happens. These individuals are gone, and now we're back to, you know, just processing people. Our team's observing the crowd, like, trying to find these individuals. We don't see them again, and we're like, you know, we knew the gate was supposed to be closed that day, and already, and it's still not. It's still open. We're still conducting operations. We know that a suicide bomber's in the area, and they're like, you know, business as usual, keep going about it. And so we do what we're supposed to do, and I mean, that's what Marines do, and we're doing our job. We're helping, you know, save lives. We're helping, you know, bring people through and process them, and you know, coming into about 1,700 or so, you know, half of our team, around 5 p.m. or so, half of our team is coming back from a resupply mission, just, like, you know, getting plus up on batteries and whatnot for comms and water, and we're waiting for an interpreter and his family to come to the gate. Similar thing, like, we're like, hey, write on this sign, like, it, you know, we had told them, our assistant team leader had coordinated with them, like, write on a sign, like, my name, you know, like, 21 STA, and hold it up as you get close to the gate, and we'll find you and we'll pull you out. And so that's a lot of what we were doing. And half of our team went back. I'm on the gun, on the SAS. Got one of my guys, like, on the spotting scope, and then one of our other buddies that had been back as well, Andrew and Adam, they were there with us. Staff Sergeant Darren Taylor Hoover comes up to the bottom of our tower, and, like, right looking north into the city, there's, like, the ladder well in our tower down to my right. And so he's like, hey, Snipes, like, you up there? And I'm like, yeah, what's up, man? And he's like, hey, there's a guy down here holding up a sign that says, like, Dalton 21 STA on it, and some other stuff. Like, is that you guys? Are you looking for that guy? And I'm like, that's exactly who we're looking for. Like, thank you. And I hop off the gun. One of my buddies is like, oh, like, I'll go down with you. I'm like, no, like, it's all good. Well, like, we need to shoot a spotter pair up here. And he's like, yep, like, good to go. Leave, you know, Andrew and Adam in the tower. And I go down the ladder well, grab my rifle, and walk out with Hoover. And Hoover, like, you know, he'd been to Afghanistan a few times before, conducting, you know, combat operations. And we're walking out towards the tower, and that chain link fence, you know, like 50 yards down or so, there's a hole cut in the fence that we had, you know, we're using to go back and forth from the canal and into the gate. And so we're walking out, and literally, like, having this conversation as we're walking out there to go grab this dude, like, this is fucking insanity. Like, what's going on? And Hoover's like, I've never experienced anything like this in my time in
What?
Afghanistan.
Oh, you're talking to him just about
we're just talking about the
experience.
situation. Yeah. And I was like, yeah, like I laughed and I was like, excuse me. I laughed and I was like, yeah, this is my only experience. And like, you know, he thought that was funny. And we walk out into the canal, come back like towards the base of the tower now where, you know, all the Marines are grouped up and people are trying to get across. And as this is happening, like, you know, it's everyone is doing the same thing. We're still just pulling out refugees and whatnot, and got our guys in the tower. My dudes are pulling up to the gate shortly, and I pull this interpreter out, and sure enough, like, he's got American passports. He hands me this white sign, and it says, you know, Dalton 2-1 stay on, and I'm like, this is actually like really cool. I'm gonna give this to Dalton when I see him here in a minute. And I fold it up and I put it in my cargo pocket, and do a hasty search on the guy. And he had his brother with him, and did a hasty search on him. And we're standing there, and I'm like, all right, like, we'll take you guys to the main search area now. Gonna go back through the gate. And he was like, wait, my family. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, your brother's right here? And he's like, no, my wife and kids, like, they're back down, like, they're down the canal still. And I'm like, you were told to be up here with your entire family. And he was like, we were worried we weren't gonna make it. The gate was gonna be closed, so we, you know, like, came forward. And I was like, just thinking in my head, like, fuck, like, the gate is literally already supposed to have been closed. Like, I don't know if this guy's family's going to make it through. Yeah. And I was like, all right, well, I was like, you sit you guys down here, set them down on the chain link fence. I'm like, let me see what they look like. And I'm like, well, fuck, like, that's not really helpful to me. And with the amount of people that are there, so I don't know if it was interpreter or the brother that I grabbed, but I brought him up to the, like, little 2-foot high canal wall, and I, like, stood him up on top of it, and I was like, listen, I'm going to stay down here with you for, like, the next 10 minutes or so, 10 to 20 minutes, and, you know, if they haven't made it up here at this point, I'll make sure another Marine is handling you guys and knows what's going on and is helping you and your family out, and because, like, I need to get back up to what I'm doing. And he, you know, I'm like, do you have a phone or anything? Like, can you call them? He's like, yes. Like, my wife has a phone, and this is, like, right before I put him up there, but he calls him, and he's like, they're down, like, in the bend in the canal. And I'm like, that's, like, 10,000 people between us. And I'm like, holy shit. So that's when I brought him up there, and he's standing up on the little canal wall. I'm talking to Hoover, like, to my right, and, you know, like, 10 minutes goes by, and it was, like, just fucking flash bang. Like, all I saw was this big flash, and, like, massive wave of pressure hits me, and that suicide bomber stepped out, you know, 3 to 4 meters in front of us, you know, in front of that the platoon size of element, and detonated, killed almost 200 people instantly. 13 Americans, 11 Marines, 1 soldier, 1 sailor, and you know, there was about 9 of us, like, very critically wounded immediately, and documented overall 45 that were physically wounded Americans from that. And he stepped out with 20 pounds of Petin, like, the equivalent to 33 pounds, a military-grade explosive, equivalent to 33 pounds of TNT, and backed with, like, a steel back plate, explosives, and then hundreds of steel ball bearings. So he essentially made himself a human directional charge or human claymore, and used his body to push the blast that way with the steel, and he had the wall behind him, so all of it got primarily thrown towards our tower and every single Marine and service member that was there. And blast goes off, you know, I get hit, and, like, I didn't find this out till probably, like, a year later, but my buddy was actually telling me, like, before, in the 5 seconds to 10 seconds before I, like, could finally open my eyes again, because initially the blast goes off, the other half of our team had just pulled up behind the gate and parked the car. Blast goes off, so they're, you know, like, 30 yards away on the other side of the tower, and we have, like, the side window and the front window open our tower, so that blast wave ripped through and damn near knocked both of our guys up top unconscious, and like, the entire crowd in front of us, just hundreds of people, just flattened, like, nothing's standing. And like, me personally, I was like holy fuck, like, I just got blown up. Like, I knew right away. It was like, you know, Saving Private Ryan, like, right ear's, like, super high pitched ringing, my left ear's muffled, and I can just hear screams of people in the distance, and I'm, like, trying to open my eyes, and I can't, trying to sit up at the same time. And what happened is a few Marines had, like, CS gas grenades on their kits, and so those got hit with shrapnel.
So that's why you couldn't
exploded on us.
open your eyes.
Yeah, on top of like the getting blown up
Yeah.
part. But that was like a big factor. It was like people thought it was a dirty bomb initially, like it was a chemical bomb because we had gas grenades blowing up on us, and immediately explosion goes off. You know, I was like, holy, like literally just like I knew right away what had happened, and I wasn't in any pain initially. I was just like, holy fuck, like I can't believe this. I literally thought this, saying, you know, this is like seconds going by, and it's crazy. Like, you know, like I was saying, I'm not the first dude like to get blown up. Like we're not the first fucking service members to get blown up and deal with this. But like I sat there and I just thought, like, as I'm trying to like bring awareness to myself, I'm like, how did this happen? Like, how did this happen to me? And I was like, it's something I personally struggle with. I think often I don't have survivor's guilt. That's not something that I've ever experienced personally. And I think a lot of that is like, yeah, I've suffered a lot physically. And I think that's a big reason for it. But I know a lot of people do. And for me, initially, like one of the things that I think about, you know, every now and then is like, it was a selfish thought in that moment was like, you know, I'm like, how did this happen to me? And like all this is going on all at once in my head, as you know, and physically, I'm like I did everything right. Like, how did this happen to me? You know, I had made a few mistakes early on in the Marine Corps, and then I fixed my shit. And after getting NJP'd, I got 2 meritorious promotions back to back, and like worked my ass off to be the best version of myself. And like getting in trouble was like the best thing that could have happened to me as a young Marine, because I was like, I can't get in trouble, or I got to learn to not get caught, you know?
Yeah.
And I remember thinking in that moment, I was like,
why me?
Why me, pretty much. And I was like, you know, it's something I think, I'm like, man, that's so selfish, but it's just a thought, you know. I'm human too, and I'm like trying to sit up, trying to stand up, and I'm just thinking like I'm really fucked up. Like I'm not.
But you have no idea how fucked up.
Yeah, I don't have any idea how fucked up I am, and I'm like trying to sit up, and now almost immediately after trying to sit up, like we start taking incoming fire, outgoing fire immediately is responded to and or responded with, but we start hearing snaps and cracks all around us, like rounds impacting around us. We start getting shot at from 2 other gunmen, at least from the neighborhood, and like because that neighborhood behind us is like 2- and 3-story buildings that are just looking directly into the canal, and we had been shot at before. Like I have pictures and videos of our tower. Like one of my guys was leaning his head against the fucking window right here like a few days prior, and like AK round fucking hits the side window, and it was bulletproof glass, literally shattered, like the bullet impact on the glass, and like passing up. They're like, no, like don't worry about it, just keep doing what you're doing. So we never opened that fucking window again. But we start getting shot at. Marines and British respond accordingly, and I'm trying to sit up, trying to stand up still. And
Have you talked to anybody at this point?
No, and so what I skipped over is one of my buddies told me that actually, like, before I like came to, that my whole plate carrier was on fire, and a dude stepped over me and like patted me out and was like, he's dead, and just like kept going to go help, you know, everyone else that was also wounded just the same. And then I come to and open my eyes, and I'm like, fuck, like we start getting, you know, we start receiving incoming fire, and I'm like, I need to crawl back that way to the fence, because I'm like, I can't stand up, I can't sit up, like I don't know why my leg's not working, and I'm like, I need to go that way, and I'm like, just fucking crawl to the hole in the fence, because that's where your friends are. And I'm like trying to crawl, and like, you know, primarily just making, you know, snow angels in the dirt, but I'm like trying to go back, probably got a couple feet if that, and I'm like falling over on my arm, and I'm like, man, why does my arm not work, like what the fuck? And I lift it up, and I was like, oh, that's why it doesn't work. And it was just like a weird like moment. It was just like matter of fact, like it was there, but it was super fucked up, and I'm just covered in fucking blood, and I'm like, all right, well, that's why it doesn't work, and this hand's not really working, but I'm like trying now to like put my arm on the ground, and I still can't fucking move, and then I like completely can't move anymore. I can barely lift my head, and all like I can see people off in the distance as I'm laying, like running around, you know, dragging casualties and whatnot, and I'm just like, I remember thinking, I was like, well, like I tried my best, and like I
Did
thought
you think
that
was
moment,
it?
yeah, I started getting, you know, I started fading out, like tunnel vision, and I'm like, yeah, that was it, or that's it, like I tried my best, like I'm gonna die, and like it wasn't like you know, I never. It's a weird thing to talk about, and but I didn't like, I wasn't scared, but it was just like more I was at peace, and it wasn't like, that's not like, me saying like, oh, I'm Mr. Tough Guy, but it was just like what happened. And I remember thinking like, all right, well, I did my best, and like I can't move. I'm really fucked up, and that's it. But like I know my buddies are gonna get me home, and I start like going unconscious, and Chaz, my team leader, like they had just pulled up to the gate and they're consolidating like, where the fuck's Tyler? And Adam, I actually remember seeing him it was like at one moment I was like still trying to sit up, and I remember seeing Adam in the tower, and he's like pointing, he's like, Tyler's right there, like on the ground, like right there. And Chaz is like, give me Tyler's bolt cutters. And he fucking grabs my bolt cutters, and he's just sprints out. He like they throw him down to him. He sprints out from the tower, goes to me, and I'm like literally going unconscious, and like I'm dying is what's happening. I'm like, and that's like one of the common things is like, you're taught immediately through like combat life saving and like TCCC is like, keep them awake, because if like they go to sleep, they're probably gonna die. Like, and I'm literally like dying, losing consciousness, and I just hear Chaz just, Tyler, like, I'm coming, buddy, I'm fucking coming, and he's just screaming and he's sprinting to me, and I like immediately just like fucking like life breathed back into my body, and I'm like, holy fuck, like Chaz is gonna get to me. And as soon as like I became conscious again in that moment, all the pain just hit me, and I was like, felt the most unimaginable pain I've ever felt in my entire life. Like my whole body, like every nerve ending was on fire. I was hit with 150 plus ball bearings that went into my body, and on top of the blast, like stomach's ripped open, like guts hanging out, and like just barely in there. And I have like a larger than a softball size hole. In my stomach that was ripped open, lost 65% of my rectus abdominis, my liver, bladder, spleen, all lacerated and punctured with ball bearings and shrapnel. Lost 140 to 157 centimeters of my large and small intestine, 2/3 of my transverse colon, left testicle literally exploded, and then the ball bearings that like burned through my radius and all over. I have my Kevlar still. It's one of the few things that I got to keep, but I have 3 ball bearings that impacted on my forehead that like you can see the impacts from them, but literally saved my life. Like would have gone straight through my forehead and killed me instantly. Everything, like nothing hit my face, so I'm still pretty, as I like to say, but everything hit my shoulders down other than my right there, my Kevlar, and a ton of them into my shoulder, and then primarily my abdomen and my leg. And so like when the blast went off, that's what happened is I was like looking this way, and blast went off and it hit me all to the front. And Chaz gets to me immediately. I remember seeing him standing over me, and he's like, what the fuck? And I'm like looking at him, and I remember him telling me like, he's like, I thought you were dead. And I'm like, Chaz, like take off my fucking belt, like take off my Kevlar. And I'm thinking, because like my belt's pressing on my stomach and my gun belt and whatnot, and I'm struggling to breathe, barely conscious. And he immediately drags me to cover, starts throwing tourniquets on me. And a few of my like closest friends are actually all the dudes that got to me in all that chaos. And also another very dear friend and mentor, like he controlled the entirety of what was happening. Like the blast went off, our battalion commander went fucking Cooper's color code black. Like, he got hit with some like shrapnel in his ankle, and he like was stood behind the tower, like full panic mode. And like our was like, you need to fucking, like, he grabbed our sergeant major's like, you need to get the fuck out of here, like get him the fuck out of here, like he cannot be here right now, like these guys cannot see him acting this way. And they fucking took our battalion commander out because he was like just dazed and confused. And everyone else is operating and pulling casualties, pulling bodies. And Chaz runs up towards the base of the tower and takes my bolt cutters, and he fucking cuts a hole in the fence and reduces the casualty carrying distance by like over 100 yards. When that's extremely significant when you're carrying people that seconds are literally like their life depends on seconds for life-saving aid. And
those bolt cutters you found when you first got there.
That Jorge technically found, and I was like, I'll keep these. And I have like a picture. It's actually funny. I was always that guy, like, yeah, I'm gonna take a fucking picture of like what, like, training or whatever we're doing,
documenting
like,
stuff.
People were always like, oh, don't do it. I'm sure it was a lot of that, and back in your day. And like, don't take photos, like you hear a lot of that. And maybe not nowadays, but in the culture of the grunt community. And So I was always taking pictures. There's a very famous photo of our entire team standing in front of our Bobcat, and I was like, you guys are gonna stand here and like take this photo, and they're like, I'm like, no, and I'm like, you're gonna fucking stand here and take this, and now they all love it. I've got it up, like blown up huge on my wall, and it's a very, very seen photo in the world of the military community nowadays. But my buddy Mitchell Sealis, he grabbed a riot shield that one of the Brits had, I believe, and that he found on the other side of the fence that, had been left behind when the blast went off, and he grabbed it and slid it under me, and like 4 or 5 of my buddies carried me out on a riot shield and carried me back behind the gate. I don't actually, like, one of the things that I don't remember, like, being carried from like the X to behind the gate, but I remember, hey, lay down.
Good boy.
But I remember like coming to again, like at like behind the gate on the ground, and I'm going like the last stages of shock, and they're putting chest tubes into me, and I'm fucking slobbering and fucking mumbling incoherently over myself, and like Jorge's there now, and he had actually walked out to meet me right when the blast went off. So he was on the other side of the gate, and the blast goes off, and he gets blown up and thrown like 10 feet this way, and he immediately gets up, and he forgets like that he was going to meet me out there, because he'd asked like, hey, where's Tyler? And like, oh, he's down there. And immediately he comes to, and like he gets on his feet, and like Marines are on fire, Marines are bleeding, and he just starts going. He triaged like 4 or 5 people, and then he's like, fuck, like where's Tyler? He finds me back at the gate, behind the gate at our tower, and he's like I got you, buddy. He's like trying to help the MO, like they're putting chest tubes in me and whatnot, and getting ready to send me off. And I remember seeing Jorge, and I'm like, fuck, like Jorge's a corpsman, like he has drugs. And I remember like trying to reach for him. I don't know if I did grab him or not, but I'm like, Jorge, like give me fucking drugs, like give me drugs, Jorge. And he's like, Tyler, like I need to finish triaging you, like lay the fuck down. So at one point I'm like sitting up, like trying to sit up, and they're like, lay down, and I'm like, I need to see my dick, and they're like, your dick's fine. I'm like, all right, lay down. And it's a common trend with anyone that's been blown up, but or shot, really. But
thank you for bringing some levity to this.
And my my team leader, he makes a joke, and it's not a joke, it's the truth, but he was like, I remember cutting your pants open, and I was like, nice dick, Tyler. And I'm like fucking, out of it. But that's a real funny moment. And
So Jorge confirms that.
So he's
manlyhood is still intact.
Yeah, Chaz. Someone did. Yeah, but Chaz was checking me out. You know what I mean? But like someone confirmed that I was good. And I was like, all right. And Jorge is. Unfortunately, like they all said goodbye to me in that moment, and he, like, one of the last things I said, I was like, "Fuck you, Jorge," because like I was like, "Give me fucking drugs," and he's like I can't, like, and I'm like, "Fuck you, Jorge," and he didn't say I can't, but whatever he said, and then I'm like fucking pretty much unconscious again, and we had a SUV after I popped the tire on the Bobcat. We had commandeered, tactically acquired an SUV that someone else was using. They weren't using it, so that's why we acquired it. But we ripped all the seats out of the back of the SUV, and we like spray painted it, like pig pride all over it, like stay, bunch of crap on it. And our SUV that we stole was actually what they fucking threw my body into the back of, and like drove me to the roll 2 in, and they drive me around, and they're like, we gotta. Like, he's going to die. Like, we have to, like, go now. Like, he can't, we can't push any meds. Like, he needs to go. He's dying. And my buddy Castillo's in the back, like, holding my arm, fucking trying to stop me from flailing it around. And I'm like, are we, just, like, yelling, like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Like, I need fucking drugs. And he's just trying to keep me awake and stop me from hurting myself more. And we have to drive, like, a couple miles around the entirety of the airfield to get to, like, the actual hospital. And I didn't find this out till about a year and a half ago, but on the way to the like Joint Troop Hospital, they had actually stopped at the Roll 2, and the shock trauma platoon like I don't know if they resuscitated me or what, but they like stabilized me just enough to like give me a few more minutes to drive the rest of the way around the airfield and get me there. And if we hadn't stopped there, like I would have died on the way. So I get there, I get dropped off on the ground, and I remember like being asked like what do you remember from being on the ground by some medical providers, and or from being at the roll 2, and I'm there. Like I was like, I remember being on the ground and then being like moved onto an operating table, and like I got 2 people above me, and they're like, we're gonna intubate him, like push X, Y, and Z meds, and do these interventions, and like they're like, well, that's exactly what happened, but except for one thing, like you weren't awake, like you were barely alive, and somehow your brain like heard and knew everything that was happening, and like we have no idea how.
I mean, the whole time you're telling me this, I'm like, how do you remember all this? Like, it's
a lot of
wild.
it now is like, and it's tough too, because like I, honestly, like I try and stay away from podcasting, and like this is like one of those things that it goes to show the character of you and your family and everything that you guys have done. But like Zach's like you need to go like talk with Ryan. I'm like, all right, well then I do, and because I know it's a lot of like for me, like everyone's like, oh, when are you gonna write a book? When are you gonna write a book? I was like, well, I'll write a book when I feel like I have enough value to add to someone else's life by sharing what I think is appropriate. But there's a lot of what's happened throughout my life and also like overseas and recovery and stuff that I haven't shared publicly too. But it's hard because I'm like, oh man, like, I never want to just. I know me sharing my story is like, well, if I share it too much, then I water it down, or will I water it down the importance of what I have to say and what's happened? But at the same time, like I'll do a few things a year because it's like, other than like speaking engagements and whatnot, but it's like, it's an opportunity, unfortunately, that I have, like, that the saying, and I shared it last night, it's like, I have the ability to talk about what's happened to me and what we experienced and what we went through. So it's my responsibility to share that, because there's 13 Americans that aren't here anymore that their families have to grieve over, their friends have to grieve over for the rest of their lives, just as the same has happened for the entirety of human existence in war. And unfortunately, and like, I guess a good thing is like, I don't give a fuck what other people have to say. Like, I know what happened, I know what we went through, and there's a lot of people that don't want to talk about it, or maybe think that we shouldn't. But at the end of the day, like, you brought up, it's coming up on the 4th anniversary, which is unbelievable to think about, but it's the 4th anniversary of Abbey Gate and the withdrawal, and we still don't have answers for what happened, and let alone just like people focusing on like us having a PID on who we believe to be the bomber B and all that stuff. That doesn't matter. Like, we knew and were told that there was a bomber in the area, that he was there, and we were still told, hey, you need to put yourself in harm's way and do this, and we did. And the State Department failed in a lot of ways, and Anthony Blinken, he sat there after the withdrawal and he said, and I quote, "I didn't see any chaos from my perch." Like, who the fuck says that? Especially a leader in our nation's government. But there was a lot of failures, and it was the State Department, it was also the DOD, it was also the Marine Corps, it was the Army, and I mean, the Marine Corps won't even fucking talk about what happened, and it's because that they know that that's them admitting fault too if they do, and like, we should have been sent earlier, and they basically, I mean, I'm sure there was plenty behind the scenes that was like, I knew our colonel was trying to get us over there earlier, many, many, many months earlier. It's also like people talking about the Doha, about like Trump being the one saying that we were going to withdraw and stuff like that. Well, yeah, there's that, but also there were the Doha agreements, and there were like 7 lines of like exactly how we were going to effectively withdraw, and like certain level of troops that we were going to leave behind, and where we were going to do it from the right way. And we didn't do that. That's not what happened. None of that was followed. So sure, he did that, but then the Biden administration came in and was like, yeah, let's send them with the last 2 weeks of when we're going to pull out and fucking put them in the worst situation that you could possibly imagine. And so again, not to get too far off topic, but it's important to talk about, and I try and not talk about it too much. I try and not share stuff about it on social media, because I know how many people are struggling. I know like the things that I struggle with on my own, but I know I also I deal with it in a different way, and I'm not saying I'm unique, but I know more than most. Like, I'm like, yeah, like fucking, I remember waking up in the hospital and stuff, and like there was not a single day that I woke up from this and that I was like, yeah, I'm gonna give up. Like, no, that was never a question in my mind. And like what I make it a point to share always when I speak, whether it's to one person or 10,000, is who I am today is who I was before I got blown up. And I've grown and I've changed in a lot of ways, as far as like maturity and hopefully a little wiser maybe. But I never woke up and was like, oh yeah, this is it. Like, life's over. I was just like, I want to get out of the fucking hospital bed. Like, let me go fucking live my life. And like, there was one time, I was in ICU for like, sorry, Gunner. I was in ICU for like 2.5 months. And, like surgeries every single day, like sometimes 2 a day and whatnot, or 2 a week. And then I get into inpatient and I'm like, take me off all my drug, like take me off all the drugs, take me off all the opiates, all the narcotics, whatever. And like, we can't do that. And I'm like, the fuck you can't? Like, yeah. I was like, it's my body. Like, no, like you guys can keep pushing antibiotics and like blood thinners, like the things that I need to like fight infection, but like I don't want to be drugged up. And I know if I continue doing this, like it's gonna harm me in the long run, and I don't want to be relying on it. And so it's like day one, like October, maybe like October 15th or so, and I'm out or somewhere around there, but I'm inpatient, and my mom's like, Bud, she came very immediately, and like met me in Germany and stuff, and that's where they like actually amputated my arm and my leg, and they amputated me at the elbow initially, but infection got so high that they had to revise it at Walter Reed. And she's like, Bud, like you're gonna run again, you're gonna walk again, you're gonna hike and shoot and do all the things that you love. And I like laughed. I literally laughed. I was in the hospital bed and I was like, yeah, I know, Mom, like you don't got to tell me that. And she's like, all right, you're still my son. And that was awesome. Turning point for her as well. And my mom and I butt heads more than anyone in my life, but I love her to death. She raised me and my siblings as a single mother. Went through a lot of childhood trauma. My dad being a child molester, sexual predator, and also a social worker at the same time, and caused a lot of like tore our family apart. And I think I realized recently that it was. I've even recently, and this is the first time I think I've talked about it publicly, but I've recently started my journey with faith and my belief in God, and it took me a long time. And I grew up, like being kind of, I don't want to say forced, but like told, like you're going to church. Like we grew up Baptist, and I also grew up like when my dad was in my life for a while, like going to Catholic Mass and stuff like that. And so I saw a lot of it, was forced into a lot of it, and for lack of a better word, but then all the terrible things happened in our life as a child, and I was like, like I remember being like 13 years old. I'm like, I don't believe in God. Like I'm atheist. And then I grew up a little bit. I was like, well, I'm not an atheist. Like I believe there's a higher power. I don't know what it is. And even through all that, through the recent years, up until this year, I was like, because so much of it was like, well, this happened to you, for a reason. Like this happened to you because God kept you alive. And I was always like, I'm alive because I fucking busted my ass every single day in the gym, every single fucking meal. Like I made myself, like I lived by the phrase, and I instilled it in my junior Marines and into my sniper platoon. Like you can never train too hard for a job that can kill you. And I like lived and breathed it. And it's like legitimately, like it's cool. And I'm proud to say like I lived that. And I recognized like I trained and worked my ass off for, what I thought was going to be a path and a career in special operations. And, it ended up being to prepare me for the worst day of my life. And, I spoke to you guys last night at dinner, but like the things and themes that I always like to talk about is physical, mental, and spiritual fitness and resiliency. And it's important, if you're physically strong, that will inevitably make you mentally strong. And, there's so many things. The spiritual piece, that's for everyone else to figure out on their own. But I recognize even in recent months that what's like there was like one time in Walter Reed when I was recovering. I was out of the hospital and I was just having a bad day. I was like, man, like I won't say I was feeling sorry for myself. I was like, man, this fucking sucks. Like my body hurts. Like this is I'm having a tough day. Like missing my buddies and shit, and just sad about what happened. But it's like just another day, and out of the blue, my team leader calls me and he's like, hey brother, how you doing? And I'm like, honestly, man, like I don't know, it's kind of a shitty day. And he was like, I was talking to him and I was like, crying a little bit, and I was like, like it sucks. Like I'll never, like for me, what it was is like having to overcome the like I will never be able to do my job again, and something that I was so passionate about, the thing that I want to do my entire life, and be a Marine and be a warfighter. And that's what was hard for me. Like I talked about not having survivor's guilt, but that piece of it was like, my life is, it's not over, but it's changed forever in a way that like I'll never, it's reality, right? Like I'll never be able to go back to the way my life was before. And I accepted that, and I have accepted that. But he was like, I want you to know, man. He was like, and I hate that I even have to say it this way. He was like, this happened to you because you can handle it. And ever since he told me that, like January of 2022, I've never looked at it differently a day since. And I just, especially like going into the Congress stuff and my recovery and stuff, like I was in the hospital. I had lost all function of my hand, my fingers. My occupational therapist would come in every day and like grab my fingers and like literally just like bend them back and forth to try and like open them up and get the muscles working and stuff again. And like I got on my phone right away and I started posting videos of me doing squats off my bed and like fucking curling like little 2-pound dumbbells and just stuff like that, and like doing funny stuff and just trying to have a good time and keep myself entertained. But I was just like, especially from the culture and like the grunt community, and everyone goes through it differently, but like I saw a lot of bad leadership in the Marine Corps, but I had some phenomenal leaders personally, like direct leadership and like squad leaders, team leaders coming up and growing up to the Marine Corps, like great dudes that instilled, like the enlisting in the Marine Corps, what I will always say, and I think will forever hold true, is still to this day the best decision that I've ever made in my life, and it's shaped me to the man that I'm proud of, and it's given me, whether directly or indirectly, the best people that I love and care about in my life, and and you've become a part of that as well, and Zach's become a part of that afterwards, and I know, and again to this is like, I know I have the ability to talk about what's happened and things in the way, not just like what happened, but you can't. The only thing that you can control in your entire life, at the end of the day, is your mindset and your attitude. Yeah. Your body's going to fail on you. People will fail on you. You'll fail on yourself more than anyone. And it's how you choose to move forward, and it's your response to what's happened in your life. You can choose to let it break you down, and at a certain point, like you have to be broken down in life to be able to grow if you choose to and you allow it. But I know what's happened to me. It's like, well, yeah, it fucking sucks, but like I got a friend who's in a wheelchair and paralyzed for the rest of her life. I've got friends that were killed as close as Zach and I are sitting right now next to me. Like we've had like 9 Marines kill themselves since returning from Afghanistan, and it's like, why would I throw away my life? I say this all the time, but we would have no frame of reference or perspective of how good and truly beautiful life can be if we didn't experience the hardships and terrible things that happen in life. And unfortunately, that's just the way life works. And it's some of the worst things that happen to you is what shape you and allow you to positively impact other people's lives. And I know for me personally, like I've known my purpose in life for most of my adult life, and that is to positively make a positive impact in the world however I can. If it's one person or if it's 1 million, I mean, it's, you never know the trickle effect that you'll have by making a difference in someone else's life. And so I try and lead my life in a way that it's like, well, fuck, like this guy's been through this shit. Like, why can't I fucking go past college? Why can't I go, go into special operations myself? Why can't I, do and chase and achieve all the things that I want and success that I want out of life? And I know that I have a unique opportunity just with what's happened and the amount of attention online and stuff like that, that it's like, I know people are watching, and I'll never be shy about sharing. Like, yeah, have and do have plenty of hard days and hard moments in my life, but that's just it. Like you said yesterday, you're like, I can do anything for a year, like, yeah, I could suffer through this. Like if I die tomorrow, I want to live my life in a way that every single day, like if I die tonight, I die tomorrow, like, you know what, like I had more to do. I'm never content, always hungry, but I know that I've given life my very best up until right now, sitting in this chair, and I'll continue to do so. I know I'm going to continue to make mistakes and, fail in plenty of ways, but, it's important. It's important to share all of that, I think, with the platform that I have and the ability to, talk about the hard shit realistically. But.
I mean, for you to sit here right now and just say, and listen, people are not just listening, they're watching, they're seeing your physical injuries, and you're still sitting here saying, the best decision I ever made was joining the Marine Corps. Yeah. I mean, that's something. And I have one question, and I don't know if you know the answer to this, but that Iraqi interpreter you were standing next to, did he make it?
I don't know. I honestly have no idea.
Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have thought about it. It's not something I think of often, but yeah. I've had one other person ask me that, and I don't even remember who, but I honestly have no idea. The one that, whether it was him or his brother that was standing next to me, like up on the canal wall, like they were probably dead. Whoever was against the fence, out of the two of them, good chance they could have lived, but I honestly have no idea. Yeah. I mean, that point of contact, like that we had, like never heard from about it again.
Sure.
You know, but I don't know.
And I'm laughing because Tyler said, you know, if you don't go through pain, you don't grow, right?
There's no flowers without rain.
Well, I thought of Taylor Swift, you know, if you never bleed, you're never going to grow. You know what song that's from, Swiftie?
Neon Moon?
No.
I'm sorry, I don't know Taylor Swift.
What do you mean? You're a Swiftie.
I send my daughters to the concert.
No, you're a Swiftie. Stop. Well, okay, so, wow. I mean, like, thank you.
No, thank you. I think the final thing that I can share is I briefly brought up to you yesterday. It's still boxed up in one of my boxes from Walter Reed somewhere, but I received like hundreds of packages while I was in the hospital, and it was incredible to see. I mean, that's one of the things, the outreach, like not even just like within America and the U.S., like the entire world internationally. Like I had from all over the world sending me letters and mail and packages and cool like organizations and companies and stuff too, and they were like, a lot of it was just like, hey man, like hope you're doing well, like thank you and stuff. And you know, it's always weird. Most service members are pretty typically weirded out when people are like, thank you for your service. Well, it's like, I didn't serve for you, you know what I mean? I chose to serve because it's what I wanted to do. But you know, like a thanks is never needed in my opinion. And for anyone listening to this, I think it's important to share that you don't have to enlist or commission in the military to serve your country and to serve your community. You can serve your people and your community in a million different ways, whether that's through nonprofit work, that's through, you know, teaching a student something, that's through, you know, being a firefighter, first responder, anything like that, or outside of it. I mean, there's a million and one ways that you can serve in your nation, and that doesn't have to just be through the military. And if you're a veteran or a service member listening, like, people don't know you shit, and that's what they need to understand. Is it's like, yeah, you served, and your service, like, your service is what you make it, and the impact that you have is up to you. And no one owes you shit for being a service member, other than the government, I would say, for the things that you go through. You know what I mean? Like the things that service members and veterans are owed from their nation for the debt that they, you know, the check that they sign with their life and whatnot. But outside of that, like, the American people don't owe you shit, and when you get out, that shouldn't be the end of it. That shouldn't be the end of your service. And you know, I learned.
I'm sure it felt good to get like that love from.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, sorry, I got off topic.
No, that's okay.
One of the things that I got is I got a package from the Travis Manion Foundation, and there was a T-shirt in it and a letter, and I have the letter somewhere as well. And then the coin, and on the back, you know, was it the Spartan helmet? Is that what it is, right? Yeah, it's a Spartan helmet, and it was like the black and gray coin.
Yeah.
And on the back it said, you know, if not me, then who? And that I put that in my nightstand. And I'm not a challenge coin person. Like I've got fucking hundreds of challenge coins that I've been given, and that was like kind of the start of getting a lot of them. But that was one that I was like, this is fucking badass. And I put it in my nightstand right next to where I slept in my room at Building 62 in the Wounded Warrior Barracks at Walter Reed. And I'd open it to, you know, pull stuff out, and I'd see it every day. And kind of wrapping up into the you know, congressional testimony piece of it, like it's stuff like that. Like I had, you know, like all the like 9 out of or more of the 13 families and whatnot, like thanking me, and people all over like thanking me, like, thank you for doing this, thank you for like testifying, doing this. And it's like, people think it's like this, like I don't even think about it, and I mean that in the way that's like, people think it's this incredible, amazing thing that I did, like going up on the Hill and testifying in the House of Representatives about the truth and about what happened. And unfortunately, accountability and the truth is so foreign in our nation, in our nation's government, that an E5 double amputee going up and talking about what happened that day and the events that led up to it seemed like the most unbelievably amazing thing, because accountability is so foreign in our government, and people with a lot more weight on their collar should have stepped forward and told the truth about what happened, and they still should. And it's tough because I'm like, no, you shouldn't thank me. I'm sorry someone else didn't step up first. And like I said, we're still going into that. It was actually 2 days before. I had been told like 4 weeks before by a Congress member that, hey, they're going to be doing hearings on the withdrawal in Afghanistan. We're like, we'll keep you updated on, what comes out of it. I'm like, all right, cool. And then 2 days before those hearings on March 8th, so it was like maybe March 5th, March 6th, I get a call from some of the families and from a few like of the online veteran pages and stuff, like, hey, like they're testifying this week in the House of Representatives. There's 4 people like that are witnesses, and there's like one guy from the 82nd Airborne, Aiden Gunderson, and Scott Mann, and then like 2 other a male and a female helping with like nonprofit work and a lot of like legislation and stuff in that. And they're like, would you like to like testify? Like, would you, or like give us a written statement or something? And I'm like, it's like 2 days before. I'm like, I was like, I mean, I'll talk with you guys on Zoom like tomorrow, like, this afternoon if you want, and I'll write something up, I guess. And then I shared my story with a few, with like, it was like the chairman and his team and some staffers and whatnot, and their jaws just like hit the floor, and they were like, we had no fucking idea any of this happened. And I'm like, yeah, no one does. No one's talking about it. The Marine Corps shut it down. Like, the DOD shut it down. The Army shut it down. State Department's definitely fucking shut it down. And they're like, we know this is in 2 days, but, like, would you consider testifying? And I was like, I don't know about that. Like, I'll write, I'll give you a written testimony, and that'll give me enough time to do it, like, in the next 48 hours. And then Sunday hits. Yeah, Sunday hits, and I thought that I was in Walter Reed, and I was like in my barracks room, and I like remember opening it up and like seeing that coin, and I was like, if not me, then who? And I was just like, holy fuck, like, who's gonna talk about these, these things these failures that cause great men and women to die, and it's terribly tragic, and was like reading that coin. I was like, I have to do this, and I did, and it was it's pretty funny because I told my liaison, excuse me. I told my liaison at the Wounded Warrior Battalion there, or regiment, and I was like, hey, so I'm doing this on Tuesday. Tuesday morning I'm testifying. And they were like, what? And immediately get a call from Headquarters Marine Corps and a few different calls from the Pentagon. And they're like, so what the fuck is going on? Like, you're going to testify? And, like, they knew the hearings were happening, but, obviously no one told us. No one told me until 2 days
Did they tell
before.
you not to?
Yeah, they were like you probably shouldn't, like, they said you probably shouldn't do this. And I was like, well, who's going to stop me? And then Monday, I spent all of Monday. Tuesday, I was testifying. I spent all of Monday at Walter Reed in the fucking cafe talking with, like, the liaisons to Congress, like, 5 different people, Headquarters Marine Corps. Meanwhile, I still have, like, a testimony to write. Like, I still have, I had my written one, like, started that Sunday night, and then I needed to have, like, they were like, you have, what was it? It was 5 minutes. You have 5 minutes to talk, like, give your verbal testimony in front of the committee. And I was like, all right, well, figure it out. And Headquarters Marine Corps, and, like, they were hounding me. And fortunately, I had, he was a raider that was liaison to Congress. And I want to say at the time, he was Major Cochran was his name. Came to me, and they pulled me off to the side. As all these, reps from Pentagon were there, like, hounding me about this. And he was like, listen, he was like, I'm pretty sure he was a prior grunt as well, is what he said. But he was like, I want you to know that there's a whistleblower act in place, and, like, talk to me about it. And he was like, you go up there and you tell the truth. You say everything that you need to say. And he was like, and no one can tell you different. And I like looked at him, and I stuck on my hand. I was like, sir, I was like, I plan to, but I appreciate you saying that. I was like, thank you. And he was the only person in the entirety of like dealing with that all day.
Wow.
He was like, you can say whatever you need to say and the truth that you need to, like, you tell your truth. And I was like, I was going to, but like, that means the world to me that you have my back. Like, thank you. And they're like, Headquarters Marine Corps is like, you need to send us your testimony and everything you're going to say. And I was like, I'll send you like a sentence, like a couple sentence outline of like what I'm going to talk
bullet
about.
points.
But, yeah. I was like,
No.
Yeah. And
No.
I rewatched it this morning before
Really?
you guys got here.
Yeah.
I did. I sent it to my dad, and I rewatched it. But I mean, I remember seeing it. What? Stop. I remember seeing it, and like when you gave it, because it went viral.
Yeah.
And but this morning I replayed it, and I was just like, wow, like
it was,
wow.
Well, that was
it was-
after we had met, right? That was,
No, we hadn't.
We had met? Or
no, we had talked
Yeah.
once, and then,
Talked,
and then right after that we did. But, yeah, they
I was so fucking proud. Like,
Yeah.
just like from a Marine perspective.
I was so proud.
Like
I
from a
was so
Marine
proud.
perspective, like there's like things that he did, like he breaks down like, you know, acronyms and like talked about it tactically. It reminded me of like a briefing. And I was like, you know, because they always say like when you're doing briefings, like after action reports, it should be explained and delivered in a way where anyone with zero context can take away the information and understand it. So like people who like aren't in the military or people who are in the military, like everything.
Right. So like your reenactment of, not reenactment, but your account of what happened, if you're a civilian, largely a lot of what you just said today, people, you know, there's going to be a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
What you said in front of Congress, like, yeah, it was so spot on.
I
It was
appreciate that very much. It was yeah, like I had to send my verbal testimony and written testimony. My written testimony was like, I think like 12 pages or something like that into like the committee, because they have to like,
Sure.
everyone's supposed to read it, you know what I mean, beforehand, and like and give the okay. But I sent it very, very dear friend, my kind of like aide in Congress, who helped some of the other witnesses, but she was kick-ass. She stayed behind the scenes, but she was fucking kick-ass. And I sent it to her, and they're like, hey, the House Foreign Affairs Committee says, like, your testimony's too long. They timed it at 10 minutes. And I just immediately texted back. I was like, well, I got it to 7, which that was bullshit.
No,
but I was like,
of
I got
course.
it to
Yeah.
7 minutes when I said it, and I was like, you can tell them that they're gonna let me say what I need to say, or I'm not gonna testify. And then immediately she was like, yep, they said you're good. I was
Yeah.
like, awesome. And then I went in there and talked. It was actually kind of cool. It was crazy, but it was cool. Like, got to go into the Capitol and go under the tunnel underneath and stuff. And I was like, holy
to ride on one of those little carts.
no, we
Oh.
rolled on the side because I was.
Oh, well,
in
I
I had my leg on, but I wasn't gonna walk that far, so I was like holding my leg over my shoulder while rolling in my wheelchair over there. But
So you said something, and I appreciate it. You know, you said you don't do a lot of podcasts, and, you know, in some ways you're preserving your story because at some point you're going to tell it in a bigger way. And I couldn't agree with that more. And I think that's super admirable. But I also think that when we talk about like the modern day Marine or service member, and we hear your story, or Zach, we hear your story because, you know, I've had you on and we've talked about a lot of the challenges that you've gone through, and what pains me when I look at like our space, and, you know, we talked about this yesterday, is the platform that's given to people that have done a fraction of what you've done and what you did in 10 fucking days, you know?
it's
And
unfortunate.
It's like, part of me wants to say, like, shut them all up and just be out there and tell your story, and, you know, but I also understand the other side of it, you know?
Absolutely. No, I appreciate you saying that as well.
Go ahead. You want to talk? Go ahead. No, please talk. We want to hear it.
I just, my granddaddy once told me something, and I think about it a lot.
I know what you're gonna say.
I can't say that one. No, he once told me it all comes out in the wash, and because I think about it a lot. Like, Tyler's someone who's very close to me and my family and everything, because like if the global war on terror is a sentence, he's the period at the end of it.
Wow.
And when I first found out about him, I found out about him through a mutual friend, and I was like, I need you to connect me to this kid immediately. And he's like, why? And I was kind of taken back by that. And I was like, well, because I've spent most of my life post-service working with veterans in various different ways, and I want to give him free, unsolicited guidance, because I know the vultures are circling him and they're looking to put a blue tie or a red tie or a shirt or something on him to parade him out there without actually helping him.
Yeah.
And more importantly, in 2021, people were kind of like over veterans as a whole. Nonprofits are really kind of whatever. And like, you know, I wanted to be like, hey, here's an organization, reach out for this, and just, you know, kind of walk him on target without letting people take advantage of him.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are people who have platformed themselves in a way that have used their service that is disingenuous, and it hurts the entire community because that's all people remember. And I've even had this position where, like, do I need to go out there and kill Santa Claus for everyone? And I've thought about it. I've thought about it a lot. It would be pretty easy. Just listen to the stories. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. That's also what my granddaddy said. They're very simple things. Like, that's the craziest. It's not true. Like, if if it's the craziest, coolest story you've ever heard, it is not true. And I wanted, I see a lot of my, like, if God had saw fit to give me the younger brother I deserve, it would have been Tyler. And right, wrong, or indifferent, I just forced myself in his life because I just wanted to be there for him, as to try and help him avoid the pitfalls that I found, and they sucked.
You have been there.
Yeah.
I said it yesterday, but he was like, I promise I'll never steer you wrong, and he hasn't a day since. It's very grateful to call you brother, man.
I am too.
Yeah.
I might not tell you the truth, but I'll never tell you a lie. It's just
So,
I am.
I'll tell you, when I was going to bed last night, you know, we talked about a lot of funny stuff last night, and I was just kind of thinking about the Marine Corps itself, and, you know, in all the ways it shaped me, even never serving as a Marine. And I went to bed last night, and because we were talking, it was like, Zach, how did we meet? And it was like, how did we meet? And how did we meet? And
It was Killzone. Pretty sure it was Killzone.
yeah, but it was just like, it was the second you and I met.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, you know, I felt just as you to Tyler. I was like, all right, this guy's like my little brother, you know? It was.
If you got it, you can spot it. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know what it is, but, like, we all stink of it. So
Good people gravitate towards each other.
Yeah.
For sure.
Well, and it's just like a thing of, you know, like, I remember when Walter Reed was, like, bustling, right? And then he's in there with no one. And so then my first thoughts after we had talked was like, is he getting the care he deserves? Like, who can I call? Like, who can I lean on? Who can I twist to, like, make sure that, like, well, if there's no one in there but him, he needs all the attention, full stop, or, like, whatever.
Well, yeah, I mean, and I think back to, like, how old were you in 2007, Tyler?
I was 9 years old.
9 years old.
Yeah.
So
I was just enlisted, yeah.
yeah, at 9 years old, when the surge was happening in Iraq, every night they played on the evening news. They would show the pictures of every service member that was killed. So it would be like the evening news, like the national evening news would play at 7:30 after the local news. And then it would be a slideshow of all the service members that had been killed. And I watched it every day. And I'll never forget, like, watching it the day after Travis was killed. And I was like, holy shit, there's my brother's face up there. But it was so in your face during that time. You know, it was, you know, you talk about if GWAT was a sentence, you know, Tyler's the period. Like, I don't know what Travis was, but he was like right there in the middle. Like, it wasn't the beginning. It was like, but it was like the middle where it was the most heightened, where the most eyes were on it, where, you know, I mean, it was it was this like grandstand of like everything was about what was happening, most especially in Iraq at that time, because it was during the surge. It was very controversial of like, is this the right thing? Is this the wrong thing? And you talk about like what you did was because of the man and woman on the right and left of you. And I'm paraphrasing one of Travis's last emails that he sent back, and it was about the surge. And he was like, listen, there's going to be many different opinions on why we're here and what we're doing here. He's like, but I can tell you that every day I am seeing my brothers alongside me doing the most incredible things that no one is ever going to get to see.
Yep.
And so like, that's why he was there,
Absolutely.
you know? So it speaks to everything, you know, that you experienced, you know, that 9-year-old you, like there were guys there that were doing the same things that you went on to do in 2021.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It really is. It's something that, you know, and I mean, you know, there's a little bit of a turn in our nation right now, but it is something that's important to remember, I think, for all Americans. But two things, I guess. One is like, you know, the American people, they get to bitch, moan, and complain about the things that they do because of where we live. And America is an anomaly, and the rest of the world. I've been to 15, 16 different countries over my 27 years of living, and some of the, you know, a few of the worst places in the world, and some of the absolute most best and beautiful cultures as well. And there's still no place like here. There's still no place like home. And it's important to remember that, you know, we get to struggle, and we get to have these problems that we do in our country because of who we are as American people and as a nation as a whole. Like the good and bad of why we are in foreign countries and go to war and stuff, because there's always good and bad reasons, but we put evil down where it needs to be put down, and we help those that are in need all over the world. And the American people, I think, will forever do that. And, you know, it's a responsibility that we have in the unique place that we live to be able to do that. And unfortunately, be at each other's throats for political bullshit that ultimately doesn't matter. And it's a matter of doing what's best for us first as the American people and as a nation that will inevitably help the rest of the world, and what has helped the rest of the world for the history that we've had. But
I'm gonna say it twice because the first one you won't be able to cut into a clip, but like I'm so fucking inspired by you. I just need you to know that. And then I'm gonna just say I'm so inspired by you, so you can use that one. But it's all right. We still got this. But you just inspire the hell out of me, like you really do. And I can't thank you enough for being here. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for making this happen. And I think, you know, as we approach 4 years since August 26, 2004, you still sitting here and still sharing your story, like, I need you to know how incredibly important that is.
That means a lot, and I hope you know that you inspire me as well. I'm very grateful to call you a friend now, so thank you very much.
You as well. And I guess we'll call Zach a friend too, right?
Deal.
All right.